Cameras on the ground captured the crash of a passenger plane in Taiwan, which killed 31 people. Watch. It's unbelievable. The plane's wing clips the bridge and a taxi driving on the bridge before it goes over the side and nosedives into the water. The aircraft reportedly took off in clear conditions and was heading for the nearby island of Kinmen. 15 of the 58 people on board were rescued with injuries, and 12 people are still missing.
Gosh, I tell you what, that video is something to see. It's amazing. Pilot and aviation attorney Ron McCallum is here to help us understand what so many people have seen in that video over and over again. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
All right, so the first piece of video we want to look at, actually one you sent to us. Kind of set this up for us, if you could.
Sure. What we've got is the Deputy Director of Training for EASA, which is one of the manufacturers related to this aircraft, in Singapore, setting up a demonstration flight, so to speak. The make and model of the simulator is identical to the ATR 72-600, of which this crash originates. And
what happens is, it seems to be what happened on this aircraft. Let's take a look.
Please.
Okay, so the pilot is having some warnings, and there we have one engine which is dead, lost. It's not even on autopilot. When you are on autopilot, barely you will not realize that you have lost an engine.
All right, so this seems to be what happened. Lost an engine. This guy is calm. He knows exactly what to do. You can fly a plane with only one engine.
Of course. I mean, they're certified to be able to fly on one engine. The pilots are supposed to be trained, as they should be, to deal with an engine failure directly after rotation, which is when you lift off or take off, or deal with an engine failure in flight. I think this video is very instrumental if you look at it from a forensic perspective, which I do in my practice to look at cases, is you see his nonchalantness with this video. He fails a motor on the co-pilot. He remarks about how easy it is. He even goes so far as to say the autopilot's not even on, and look, everybody, this is very easy to handle.
And it seems as though the plane is kind of continuing its course. It's just moving forward while the pilot then takes the steps to get things back in control.
That's true. He disarms some master cautions and alarms that are likely related to low oil pressure or low rotation within the turbine itself. But if you look real close at the video, you'll see the picture outside the frame, the yaw, it just barely moves.
So does it matter that this plane had just taken off a couple of minutes before this happened?
Well, good point. Two critical phases of flight for pilots. When an emergency is going to come up, is going to be takeoff and landing.
Sure.
So yes, it plays a part, but if you look at the video closely that Steve just played, you'll see the aircraft is configured and the landing gear is up and the flaps are almost all the way.
Here it is, what you're just talking about. It'll probably loop back around so we can kind of see it, then go over this highway once again. Okay, so the engine that's out, that's the engine on the left.
Right, from what we can tell from this video, the engine on the left is windmilling, which tells me that the propeller was not fully feathered, which means it's creating a lot of drag on that aircraft.
So this pilot had 5,000 hours.
That's true.
Is that a lot?
I'd say that's about average for an operator of this type of aircraft.
Should that pilot know judgment, because we don't know what was going on, we'll find out, when we hear everything on the black boxes. Should that pilot have been able to handle the situation? You
Absolutely.
think it was human error?
I wasn't there, but the pilots are trained to be able to handle that. And what we see in this video is we get to the last moments where the pilot, I believe, tries to avoid some buildings.
Gosh, look at this. This is just an incredible picture. Yeah, it tried to avoid the buildings.
And he gets to the final moment right when that left wing dips, which is the sign of what we call a full stall, or there's no more lift over that wing to support it, and it goes down. I think the pilot was dealing with some really hard decisions, including does he ditch this thing into a building? Does he go into the road? Does he try to make the river? But at this point in the video, he's out of control. The aircraft has lost control.
It's just so frightening. He's being called a hero in a lot of newspaper reports that he missed the buildings, missed some schools, missed the the homes of people, and chose the river. What do you say to those reports that he's being called a hero?
We'll look back when we get the cockpit voice recorder and we figure out where things went wrong in this chain of events, because after all, these aviation accidents and catastrophes are always a chain of events.
So you mentioned accidents and catastrophes. Been quite a few in this part of the world lately. This particular airline, what, 2 in just the last 7 months? I think the last one was in July?
That's right. The last one with this particular airline was in July of 2014. And I think that's a great question, Heather. Your audience probably wants to connect the dots.
Sure.
And look at all the events that have happened in Asia recently. But you've got to think about two things there. One is, this is the most rapidly growing segment of commercial aviation in just about the entire world, because their economy is doing so well, their population is booming. And you've got a situation over there with the governing authorities that should be looking over these pilots, and from the United States standard, in our perspective, we don't really know what they're doing necessarily.
Can we find out? Should we find out?
I think we will find out. A lot of times other countries will call in the NTSB, or the National Transportation Safety Board, to come in and help them.
So they should be following the standards that we've got set up through the NTSB, but then I guess it's enforcing the safety and the regulations and that sort of things?
Well, enforcing this, of course, and you got to look to and everything not in isolation. This particular airline had a fairly poor history. They've had 4 fatality crashes since 2000, all of them involving the same type, very similar type aircraft. And that type of track record for an airline in the U.S. Would not fare well.
And now all these types of 22 of these planes now have been grounded while they take a look.
That's what we understand. That's true.
Okay, all right, we'll keep watching it. Ron, I appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thank you so much
you,
for
Heather.
coming in and give us your perspective.
Yes, ma'am. Have a great night.